Two former DOC directors speaking out, saying the bottom line, the buck stops at the top.
Certainly things have gone wrong under his watch.
The way the prison operates is greatly impacted positively or negatively by the management of that prison.
They're talking about DOC Director Tony Lamorena. Several corrections officers served by Lamorena with adverse actions as suspended. Those officers responding by arguing they weren't properly trained and management's inability to maintain facilities contributed to conditions that allowed detainee Manson Isar to be beaten to death by a group of men confined at the Agatna lockup.
Somebody shouldn't be killed or murdered in prison, and if you don't do enough to protect them, you may face some civil liabilities in the long run.
Well, later down the road may come sooner than you think, as DOC Oversight Chair Senator Talina Nelson says she'll write a letter to the Department of Justice detailing what she calls civil rights violations under Tony Lamorena's leadership at the prison. A source at the prison choosing to remain anonymous because of a gag order issued to employees told me Manson Isar, quote, got what he deserved.
I don't agree at all.
Isar facing trial for allegedly raping a woman with Down syndrome.
Now we have capital punishment at our own prison. He has a responsibility to make sure that bad things don't happen to them, no matter how they got into prison.
Director Tony Lamorena firing back, saying problems at the prison are nothing new.
These directors, for them to say that these weren't going on during their time, then they've had their heads stuck in the sand.
Inmates did not run the prison during that period of time. I'll guarantee you that.
While both of the former directors say sometimes people without relevant experience can be successful in leading a government agency, in this case, Lamorena and Deputy Director Kate Baltazar's lack of experience could be one of the reasons for the crisis at DOC.
A director and a deputy with no prior correctional background, and I thought that's maybe handicapping him a little bit. I had a lot of law enforcement background before I became Director of Corrections, and I was not prepared to be director.
Running the prison requires quite a commitment from leadership, and you can't help but question how committed leadership is when Deputy Director Baltazar is currently campaigning as a candidate for senator. Klitsky says that prevents her from fully focusing on matters at hand at the island's prison.
Absolutely. Being Director of Corrections, being Deputy of Corrections, is more than a full-time job. There's no time left over for anything else.
When the time comes, based on law, she will depart from the department and, greatly missed.
Baltazar supposed to step down once she files her official candidacy, but she's already had at least one fundraiser that was advertised on a DOC employee WhatsApp chat. Less than a year ago, the prison's federal consent decree was lifted. It's all been downhill since then, but that didn't stop the governor from claiming all was well with DOC in his State of the Island address.
And your Lieutenant Governor worked outside our Attorney General and the Speaker, thank you, Speaker, and fixed the problems at DOC.
Problems that still exist. At the DOC oversight hearing, Internal Affairs head Anton Uggans sounded off, frustrated by conditions.
There's no cameras there, all right? So the equipment doesn't even work. The locks are broken. The locks, we have a lot of things to take care of.
Lamorena, however, saying perception is not reality, and the public hears about problems plaguing the prison because they're not being swept under the rug.
We've become, more transparent, and with transparency comes the appearance of failure and negativity.
So do the two former directors think Lamorena should be replaced or fired?
That's a tough question. I thought maybe he should have, but he's already withstood that test, and he's still a director, so I think he needs to just continue.
It's the governor's call as to how long he would leave any director on the job in the face of what might appear to some, many, or most as misconduct.
If the governor feels that, I should be replaced, then, I serve at the pleasure of the governor.
For Guam's News Network, Chris Barnett reports.